Hello, everybody. Today's video is the Reagan Era Part 2, a continuation from the last video. One new vocabulary word for the day, that word is AIDS, also known as acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Read that to understand and then proceed. 1980s society, let's focus on a couple of items on this slide. Immigration growth. During the 1980s, there is a lot of immigration that is coming from Mexico and Latin America, definitely large numbers, and crossing over from Mexico to Mexican and United States border. What does this mean? So it does lead to an increase in security at the border, but at the same time, Ronald Reagan ends up granting amnesty to people that had entered prior to 1992. I say people, but immigrants that had entered prior to 1992. This is a trend that we will continue to see at the close of the 1980s, into the 1990s, and into the 21st century. Pop culture. Um, at this time, there is a group called that are young urban professionals, and they become known as yuppies. Yuppies, at least the stereotype about them would be that they are big into the material culture, big into big. They have a large attachment to material goods. They're all about spending money, and I think the singer that highlights this certainly is Madonna at the time of this yuppie generation, if you will. On top of that, physical fitness is in, and I'm not sure physical fitness and the popularity of physical fitness has died down even to this day. We'll end this slide with addressing NASA. NASA, in 1969, the United States and NASA send the first astronauts to the moon and actually stepping on the moon. In the 1980s, the NASA program has not only continued, but it continues to send people into space. Almost a 20-year gap between um, the moon landing and the space shuttle, the Challenger. However, in 1985, the Challenger mission was a disaster. There were lots and lots of people that tuned in to watch the shuttle take off from Earth and head to space. And on top of that, there was a teacher who was on board and was having this space experience. However, on live TV, as it was shown across the nation, as it was shown in schools, the Challenger ended up having issues and exploded on live TV, and was broadcast all across the nation. President Reagan went on to national television that evening to talk about what people saw, including kids, and address the nation about of course, very sad moment that was the Challenger explosion. During Reagan's presidency, there were issues at home, despite the fact that he was reelected in 1984. One of the earliest issues at home was really the start of this epidemic. People had AIDS, little known was about it, and there actually was a lot of fear regarding AIDS and a lack of understanding of the disease. As for Reagan's involvement, he tended to stay out of it instead of possibly putting in money and doing research about it. That changes a little bit under George H.W. Bush's presidency that follows Reagan's second term. But this was one of the issues that Reagan faced on the domestic front during his presidency. Also, the war on drugs. This was a campaign led by the Reagans, both Ronald and Nancy. The Just Say No campaign became a mantra across the nation and on many fronts. There will be a large increase in mass incarceration during this time, and that continues because of the harsh policies that were put into place during the Just Say No campaign. But it is important to keep in mind that the idea of this fight against drugs was not simply a Ronald Reagan, uh, did not begin during the Ronald Reagan era, but this is something that dates back to President Nixon and the policies there. It just continues during the Reagan campaign, and actually, there's an increase, especially with that mass incarceration factor. As for education, we still see education as a highly politicized and talked about topic to this day. But during the Reagan administration, right, education was talked about from the perspective that globally our kids were falling behind compared to other countries across the world. So Reagan and his nation at risk mentality talked about school choice, more rigor for students in the classroom, demanding them, if you will, to do more work. And this brought about the idea of the voucher system and school choice. School choice is and the voucher system, two talked about items even to this day, but what we will certainly consider, uh, what we will certainly see from the 1980s even to this day is politics highly involving itself in education, making federal policies, making decisions on the federal level to address what their concerns are on the education front across the entire nation. So when we take a look at policies like the policies of George W. Bush and the No Child Left Behind Act, we can rewind and take a look at this period of time and the fear that is instilled with what is wrong with our education system and how do we fix it. Still in place today, or not in place, rather, it is still a factor in how we view education on a federal level to this day. That's it. We will see you next time.